Good evening, and thank you so much for the kind introduction, Monsieur Francois Mondevine. I've come to this auditorium many times to watch plays or be part of writers, and this is the 37th edition. So I'm quite happy that I'm on this side. And I can only tell you that we should welcome the author from France with a loud round of applause, because the finance minister has not yet taxed clapping. There's no tax in clapping in India, not yet. And second thing is, whenever you clap, it kind of relaxes your heart muscles. So it's a healthy thing to do in a selfish way. And third thing is, someday, like I was sitting in the audience, you'll be up here and you'll lead the applause. So karmically do it so that if you like what he says, and if you don't like what I say, you can applaud, because someday you will lead that. So really, to our guest, I live in India, I live in Delhi. And you know, I have a disadvantage today for many reasons. One, unlike our author, who is not just an author, he's a journalist, he's a policy evangelist, he's a radio show host, he's a traveler. I don't know how many hats he wears, and he's very prolific. If I had to say one word about him, it would be prolific. It would be smart too, but it would be prolific. So really, you have a very good pleasure of having. But as I said, I have a handicap. One, I'm not French. Second, I don't know French language. Third, they haven't served me any wine before we started the session. And fourth, very, very importantly, I'm married, so I'm not smart. Today, when we talk to Frédéric, we're talking about, so we have somebody who not only has a view on Europe, on China, on Japan, he also has a view on India, because he's been coming to India for a while. And I'm going to ask him what has changed in India. I want to play a video. We can play the video and then we'll come back to a conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Adi and this is Firoz. We're from the Young India Fellowship. This is our digital network's assignment. The song is called This Network is on Fire. We'd like to thank Billy Joel, Johnny, and underneath Robinson for this awesome house, and the salaries, and that's right, and everybody else who's like participating behind the camera. So let's go. Serve 69, the world is just shot online. Talking how it ain't to a show, that's all what we can do. 91 is our recall, he gave us a protocol that put our minds all in line. The world wide web was sublime. And we were like cavemen, dialing up our internet. When we had to send a mail, all we had was MSN. But back then there was no way, getting your domain. And babies dancing on the screen, what does all this data mean? This network is on fire. We've all been posted and our brains been toasted. This network is on fire. Too many cats and dogs and it goes on and on. Fast forward on its way, the internet is here to stay. Zuckerberg and Larry Page, they keep us wanting more. Now we're hooked on Google and all of the doodles. Facebook is on the web and now it's on my phone. Mr. Jobs, he was no fruity iPhone, it was some fruit applications and no thing, tagging everything. Not just now on Instagram, tweeting all those hashtags, Kardashian and Cumberbatch, trending more than dogs and cats. This network is on fire. You can see mileage working, but the busy working. This network is on fire. You know it's better this time, so we try to find it. Facebook, MySpace, movies got a Twitter space, buying things on Amazon and selling things on eBay. Data mining, cybercrime, tracking you all the time. NSA, CIA, they all know what you did today. Obama, he's been watching you, Snowden, Timbuktu, downloading from Pirate Bay. Careful, you get locked away. Watching all the media, using Wikipedia. Arab Spring, Syria, feminist hysteria. Network is on fire. Trying to get privacy, that's fighting piracy. This network is on fire. You're all alone together and we're friends forever. Digital society, what does this all mean? We're fighting wars online and Apple's got a queen. We don't care what they see. We're busy living publicly. We're just a click away from anywhere. 5, 6, 7. This network is on fire, and even if you hate it, you can never escape it. This network is on fire. We're all alone together and it lasts forever. This network is on fire. This network is on fire. This network is on fire. And it goes on and on and on and on.
The beauty about internet is that you don't have to do things, you can curate stuff. And the reason I showed that video, when I was reading about his book, he talks about lots of issues that have been talked about in the video. So coming to Mr. Martel, welcome. Let me start with you and ask you this question. You're an anchor, journalist, TV show host. Which is the role which is closest to your heart? Which is it that you enjoy most?
Bonjour. Bonjour. It's a personal and difficult question. I would say to answer it, you're also an entrepreneur and a chief editor, and so you know basically the answer. The answer is that everything works together in a way.
Israel, a small, tiny city, besieged with problems. I mean, it's a country, but it's really small. I mean, has been able to create itself as a startup nation. There are more startups that come out of Israel than come out of any single country. When you come to India, do you believe we can emulate Israel someday?
I mean, you already you have done that already. There is not only startup. You have, if you look at the picture, the large pictures, India is a key player in this game. And I don't say that just because I'm here. I wrote that in my book. If you go to Bangalore, for example, if you look at the unique ID card, which of course has a lot of debate and you can discuss it, but still, it's something nobody has done before. If you look at the way a company like Infosys, and we can use many other examples, you will know that India is already a key player. It's true that in Israel, a very small country, it's not even the size of New Delhi basically, that is able, because it needs it, it's able to create, it has created many startups because they need to connect with the world and to sell.
The market is very small there.
Yes, otherwise they are not able to survive. In India, it's a very different picture. First of all, I mean, you need to be also outside, to be global, to be in the world, but you have first of all to nurture your own, ecosystem to be able to help the people here and to make India not just incredible but also smart.
It's interesting that you talk about India being incredible and smart in the same breath. You know, all of us have read this book called 1984 that George Orwell wrote in 1942. And he made lots of predictions and he painted lots of scenarios and some of them have come true. What is, in your book, you again paint some scenarios for future?
For me, internet is not something that you are going to join on a global level. I mean, it's not a global conversation that everybody will join. I mean, everybody will become English speakers, that everybody will interact with, I don't know, from here, with Brazilian and Americans and from China and whatever. I do believe there is infrastructure, social network, software that are global, for sure. And a lot of names that you have heard in these video clips are global brands. At the same time, content are not traveling well on the internet. And when I did my research in 50 countries, which is a lot of meetings, and in many of these countries I went there once, twice, 3 times, so it's more probably than 150 countries visited and thousands of people that I interviewed, you realize that this idea of a global conversation, a global content doesn't exist. Of course, there is this guy, a little bit crazy, Psy, you know, in South Korea with this video that everybody has seen, Gangnam Style. There is this kind of Beyoncé song, or maybe the Barack Obama speech, or Michael Jackson funeral. So there is some events that are global and that everybody will see basically in the world, even though it's not actually everybody, but still millions of people. At the same time, the majority of the content you consume every day are not global. They are linked to the place where you live. They are linked to your language. They are linked to the way you organize your life with your community and cultural sphere. So there is not such a thing as a global conversation that everybody will join. So it's extremely important because it means that for you, for example, your newspaper, I mean, they are already very popular and they might be even more because of course it's a big country. But probably, I don't want to be mean with you, but we are not going to read them in Mexico because they relate to your content. They relate to the country where we are. And it's exactly the same for the internet. When you want to go to a restaurant, you don't care about the restaurant in Silicon Valley. You want the restaurant in your street, in your city. It's the same for the friends you have on Facebook. I mean, if you speak to your son or to your nephew, you will see that they might not have that many friends on their Facebook page in Russia or in Argentina. Mainly they are from India, in general from New Delhi, and even more from their high school in general. So you can speak with other people, of course. And when I was in the US and then also in India, I realized that a lot of people are communicating and a lot of Indians dialogue with Americans. But when you look at statistics, numbers, and what actually they are doing, you realize that they speak in general to other Indians. So there are Indians, but Indians living in America. So you don't speak when you live in New Delhi with a kid that is white, that is in Kansas City, for example. You mainly exchange with non-resident Indians that are basically also Indian. And it's the same for the French, it's the same for many languages. I don't want to say that internet is not a better tool to have international exchanges. It is the case. But mainly, it is still geolocalized. It's linked to territorialized. It's linked to your community, to your sphere, to the content you need. And so my prediction to answer your question will be in this direction. I mean, I don't believe in an internet that will be the same for everybody. I believe internet, and this is why I use the word with the S plural and with the I lowercase, no lowercase, no capital, because I believe it's about the future of the internet will be the internets, les internets with an S in French. We mean that, and if you want to develop a very smart country in India, smart cities, if you want to have India becoming digital India, you have to think that in the Indian way. It's not going to be a copy of the Silicon Valley, a copycat of what they do in America. It's going to be something genuinely Indian. And this is why, at the end, and it would be my main prediction, internet will be something more linked to you, to the country where you are, the space, the sphere, the community you want to be part of. And this is, at the end, a pretty good news. To finish in just one sentence, we are now 2.5, 2.7 billion already connected to the internet. In 5 years, we will be 5 billion. Which means that the 2 billion plus people that are becoming connected to 5 billion will be, by definition, people that speak less English than the first 2 billion, probably more localized, less traveling, and so by definition the future of the internet is not global. I don't say it's local because it would be stupid to say it that way, but it will be more linked to a specific place, because place is important for the internet. And so I think the globalization aspect of the internet is less important than the fragmentation of it.
And language, the local language
is
very
the first tool, for sure.
Maybe the next conversation we'll have in English. So maybe
no, in Canada, because I'm learning Canada. I know already 2 words from Bangalore, you know.
Yeah, it means Kannada.
Canada is language of Bangalore.
Yes. Now, do you follow any Indian on Twitter? Do you follow our Prime Minister? You seem to be very cute in about digital India and smart cities. Do you think, smart cities is an old wine in new bottles, aided by the label of technology? I mean, And do you think it is really achievable? Our Prime Minister is talking about 100 smart cities in the next 10 years.
You know, as a French, thinking of smart city as old wine in a new bottle would be a shame. Old wine has to stay in old bottle. You know, French are it's very important for the French to speak about wine.
I have some idea.
So you cannot make a joke about wine in front of the French people, you know. And my name is Martel, you know, it's a very famous cognac, so be careful. No, I think you're right, and I mean, I agree and not necessarily agree with that. I agree that in a way, smart city is just a logo, it's just a formula, like actually Digital India. I mean, the
vision.
Yes, the previous government has done a lot for the internet, but they didn't have the brand Digital India. So in a way, brand might be very important. But you're right in a sense that it's important sometimes to make communication, because when you say something, it's also the people know it. And for example, nobody can in this country, for example, it will be difficult for the government to ask all the cafes and restaurants and hotels to have the internet. And a lot of them still don't have the internet. Even close to me on the Cannes market, for example, I've been in 5 cafes and only 2 have the internet out of the 5. And among the 2 that have the internet, only 1, the internet works.
Yeah.
So it has to change.
Like a Bengali joke. What is the similarity between a Bengali and a condo? 1 in a million works. So cafes are like that. But I'm happy to share with you that the Karnataka government last week in the state budget gave away, they declared that Karnataka will be the first state where every student will have a free Wi-Fi connection. They declared it, of course.
Yes, but sometimes, for example, if you say cafe needs to have internet, you're not going to pay for them. But if they realize that if they have internet, people will come more to the cafe.
Like Starbucks.
Then yes, exactly. One of the success of Starbucks in America in the beginning, I mean 10, 15 years ago, was because they were among the first to get free internet within. I was in Boston, living there in 2001, for example, and I was going to the Starbucks just because of the internet. And I spent a lot of bad cafe because I don't like the cafe at Starbucks because of the internet. So we really need to say things, and it's going to change step by step the country. Because I believe, for me, and this is why in a way this is not just old wine in a new bottle, I believe a smart city and all the smart tools that can empower people is extremely strong. When you criticize the internet, sometimes you believe it is just something for entertainment. It's just things where you are going to say crazy things to your friends on Facebook, or watching a video on YouTube about cats doing skateboards or monkeys, whatever, because we are in India, so I try to adapt a little bit my speech. I saw some monkeys in my hotel a few minutes ago, so I was like, oh, monkeys in my hotel.
Monkeys are Indian gods, you can't joke about that.
No, yes, we have one god, we have monkeys god.
We only have it at the end of
No, they were very friendly, and I kind of had fun with them. So they were pretty smart monkeys, you know.
I think
I saw some elephants 1 hour ago. Yes, they were walking like that in the street. It's not that.
How many
It was 3 of them, 2 big and a small kid, and you know we don't have that in Paris.
Yeah,
It's very rare in my apartment in Paris.
It's very foreign to say that you find monkeys and elephants and cows and
It's
snakes.
not the case.
Did you see a snake? Yeah.
No, from that.
Coming back, we're talking about your predictions for future, and we're here primarily to talk about the softer aspects that the internet impacts. You think you've been coming to India for many years now. You've been to Mumbai, you've been to Bangalore, of course you come a lot to Delhi. Do you think we as a society, we as a country, really understand the concept of soft power and practice it like you do as a country? The impact of culture? What's your view?
So soft power means basically influence. It means how, it's also for that case, it's a old wine in a new bottle. Influence have been, did exist for forever. I mean,
So what comes to your mind, what comes to your mind when you think of India? Is it Hollywood? Is it Indian food? Is it the sari? It is the elephants? What is it? Like when we think of France, I think of people drinking at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Honestly.
We drink what?
You know,
Wine
when
at
people
2 in the afternoon?
at the lunch, at an office lunch.
Yes, for lunch, yes.
I
But
think
not in the office.
Yeah.
I would say, first of all, for me, it's, I mean, I don't want to do just short sentences like prejudices. I think it's a country that is growing up, that has, you know, you can grow up with this country, and I really believe this is the strongest things you can say to help the people to stay here. It's good that you travel. It's good that you make, for example, you go for 1 year in France or in the US to attend some school, do an MBA, whatever. But
By the way, he's been a professor at a business school. He was a professor at FEC. So he's done, that's another hat that he's done. So I could go on talking about what he does. I don't know.
But the main idea is that, yes, you can change your life, and changing your life in this country, you will also change your country. And that's, I think, it's extremely important. And it's not necessarily something that exists today in France in the same way. So for that, I'm extremely optimistic with this country.
Yeah, because you're a developed country, you're a developing country. So of course we have a long way to go where we can get to what you do. And coming back to smart as a concept, do you think, you know, today internet is, or the internet of cities as we talk about, or the digital society making young people smarter or dumber?
Boss.
Both.
No, just because I don't agree with the people that try to see internet as a moral issue. Then the debate, is it good, is it bad, that we have to censor it or not. I mean, for me, internet is a tool. It's not exactly like electricity or water or the phone, but it's a little bit like that. In a way, it's not good by itself. It depends on what we are going to do with it. It can be good and bad at the same time. So the question is less if it makes you smarter or dumber. It's more a question of how we are going to help people to empower themselves with the internet. I'll give you just an anecdote, but I was with a kind of minister, actually was like more deputy minister in Kenya, Africa, in Nairobi, and I met him because he was supposed to be the digital czar, you know, the minister of telecommunication, and he explained to me how internet works. So I was very interested. I listened to him for a while. And you know the government has a lot of problems. The president might be in jail internationally. You know it's not it's a lot of corruption, whatever. And he used old phone. You know, like the old phone, line phone, a lot on his office. They were ringing all the time. It was not possible to have more than 2 minutes dialogue with him without phone ringing and so.
He was the minister of telecommunications.
He was the minister, yes. And then he said to me, you know, I'm going to improve the ghetto and to help them to access the internet. So I was very interested, and then I went the day after in Nairobi to Kibera. Kibera is one of the biggest ghetto in Africa. Maybe 1 million, maybe 500,000, we don't know exactly. And actually there is a project that Mr. here is working for, which is a $100 computer. I've seen that working. One laptop by child. It's about $100 laptop that are funded by an NGO from MIT and linked to MIT. But the interesting thing is that when you arrive there, you realize, of course, it's a ghetto. It's like a slum, a very bad one, probably among the worst in Africa. But you have a problem of water, you have a problem of electricity. It's extremely difficult even to take the road. But every kid has an iPhone. Every kid has a phone, a feature phone, what we call a basic phone. And a lot of them have access to the internet. So I looked a bit how they were working on the internet. And actually, the reality is that they knew more how to use the internet and how to use a phone than the minister that tried to give to them the internet. Why? Because the debate is not necessarily the digital divide now, even though we have to work on that, and still is very important. the main point is digital literacy. How you help people that already have access, that already know internet in many ways, because even the worst kid in the world, has some knowledge about how to use a phone, but it's how, from that point, you go to something else, which is using the internet to change your life, to empower your life, and to become maybe, to emancipate yourself and to become whatever you want to become.
You know, in your book, again, you compare India with China in terms of digital society and smart. And I know we were talking yesterday and you said India has an advantage because it's a democracy. You use different words to say that. How do you see this advantage translating into real gains for our society, especially in terms of softer power and not just technology?
I'm very interested in the opposition, and in my book I have one chapter on China, one chapter on India. It's true that India is, for many aspects, on many elements, behind China, because of the economics, because also of even on the internet connections. You said that in the beginning, China created its own copycats of basically everything. The US
banned the American company.
So basically, you don't have Google, you have Baidu. You don't have Facebook, you have Tiantian. You don't have Twitter, you have Weibo. You don't have Amazon, you buy things on Alibaba, and not YouTube, but Youku, and so on and so forth. And they're very proud of that, and I'm not.
In fact, most people say that Alibaba was sponsored in some way or helped by the Chinese government. It was propped up by the Chinese government.
Yes, like all the other
so it was not just something that happened.
Yes, and it exists because all the other websites are censored. You create Baidu because Google is forbidden. You create so it's not a market economy, and we know that as it should be. But in addition of that, this success is a kind of a mixed feeling for that, because the reality is that they isolate themselves from the world. So it's much complex than that. I wrote a lot about that opposition. But the good things with India is that you're part of the conversation. Even though, as I said before, it's not a global conversation, but still, the place here, you can at the same time connect to the East and to the West. You can connect to China in many ways, and also to us, or to the US. So, for me, India, it's probably, when you are in Bangalore, for example, you realize that immediately. For a while, India was the call center, as we call it. It was a place where you can, you were trying to have your computer working in France or in the US, you call a number and you were in India.
And the back office of the world.
Exactly, the back office of Silicon Valley and in America.
The Philippines is taking that space.
Yes, why? Because in a way India is too expensive now. So sometimes the company like Infosys and big companies, Tata Electronics and so on, they basically offshore themselves to other countries like Indonesia or the Philippines or Malaysia and so on. But now you see, and I've done some research for a while in Bangalore, you see that it's extremely creative. They do the cloud and the several levels of cloud. They're really trying to improve the internet that they are building with being more creative, being more smart in many ways. So it was the beginning. Now we are in the middle of something, and then it's going to be even more and more important. So just to finish on that small issue, I really believe in a country like this one, you have to work on every direction at the same time. You need to create smart cities and hubs where you will have incubators and accelerators to help startups to grow. And it has to be in Bangalore, it can be in Mumbai, it can be here, it can be in other places. So, and then maybe the project of 100 smart cities of the new government is in this direction. At the same time, you have also to work on apps and websites that are created by these people, but that they will change the life of all Indian people. So which means on farms, on electricity, on maps, on multiple directions. Yes, and it will be Indian apps, because you have specific goals. You need things that are not necessarily the same of other pays. So it has to be Indian. You need to find, like the Israeli, like in a way the Brazilian or the Americans, an Indian way to do the internet. And third, you need also to connect the people and villages. So smart cities are good, but I would say I'm also in favor of smart villages, how you can have hundreds of thousands of villages connected in this country.
Our Prime Minister has told every member of Parliament to adopt a village and make it a model village, so that then that can be replicated.
Yes,
and that cluster becomes
adopt a village, it's a little paternalistic and very, the way you...
But in a sense, directionally, the Prime Minister is talking similar things as you. So I'm just saying it to supplement it. Now,
you want to say that I'm pro-Modi?
No, I think the first match.
No, he's pro-Martel, you want to say. Okay, good.
I don't think he has had a cognac hour. I can be sure, almost sure about that. But, also when we talk of smart, and smart has a interface with governance, especially in the way you write about it in your book. Do you think smart is an elitist phenomenon in India? Or do you really see it percolating down to the ghettos, like you talked about Africa?
Once again, I really believe, I'm not naive in the sense that internet will change everything. I don't think it's going to, all the problems will disappear thanks to the internet. Of course not. But I would say, so, internet is not the solution, but it is part of the solution.
But isn't it elitist?
It's not an elitist way. I take an example, especially from outside, but when you see in Africa, the apps M-Pesa. M-Pesa means basically, Pesa means money in Swahili, and M-Mobile, so mobile money. You are able, through a feature phone, which is not even a smartphone, you are able to send money everywhere, to your friends, to your family, to pay. And I've done that. I just bought the account, it's about not even €1. And then you have your money and you can pay whatever, the food, the cafe, the taxi, whatever. And it works in an incredible way. In Africa, before, to give the money to your parents, you need to use what they call a motutu, which is like a bus. You give the money to the driver, and after like 2 or 3 days of drive, your mom can get, if it works, your money. And then it's an extremely long process and difficult. Now, with a small text message, you give to your mom the money when you work, for example, in a big city, and she's still in the village, and so on and so forth. So it changed, it really changed the life of people. It's not just theory, it's not just an hypothesis by crazy good professor at Harvard or MIT. It is what's happening right now, everywhere, in every city, in every ghetto, in big country like actually typically Nigeria, Kenya, like that. So it's something that works.
It's interesting you're talking to me about financial inclusion. Our Prime Minister has started a Jan Dhan Yojana. Jan means people, Dhan means wealth. So to bring people who've never been in the financial mainstream, they've not been able to transfer money, save money, haven't had an insurance, to bring them into the main fold so that in the future they can be part of this inclusive India. So it really, of course, mobile phone is you know how many Twitter followers our Prime Minister has?
10 million.
Yeah, you know that. Our Prime Minister has 10 million Twitter followers. So, you're talking about, again, going back to the original topic of soft power being impacted by a digital society. Do you think societies in general and the Indian society is at an inflection point where digital and mobile and smart are genuinely solving real life problems? I mean, we talked about financial inclusion. Tomorrow there could be an app that is directed towards women's security, which alerts something. But if you take these away, we go to our villages where there are basic issues, where we yet can't talk about smart cities. Do you really think that, digital is something that is really going to solve problems?
Yes, I say the same things again in a different way and with another examples. But again, it's not going to solve all the problems. It will be foolish, it will be stupid to say that. But it is part of the solution. And let's take another example. When you see what has been done in Brazil, in favelas, which are basically the slums of Latin America, in the beginning it was extremely difficult to get the internet in the favela, even though now, thanks to the smartphone, it's much easier. So they created what they call LAN houses, which are local network that the data is able to connect to the internet, and then through that LAN houses you can get some internet connected. It wasn't created by the president. And actually when the president, the former president of Brazil, Lula, came and discovered one LAN house, he said, oh, it's wonderful, we should help them to build the LAN houses. The LAN houses have been created by kids living in the favela, opening a little shop, and just being able to get people coming there, what? To play PS1 or PS3, okay, they do that as well. They do video games, but also they can come there to connect to the main website in Brazil that helps them to get your resume and your CV to try to find a job. It's a way you can connect to other people. It's a way you can learn things. It's a way you can build a network of professionals that will help you, and so on and so forth. So at the end, the LAN houses that are less important today, because again a lot of people are connected by other way, help to change the nature of the favela. And I'm not crazy about the studies by the IMF or the World Bank, but we know that whenever somebody has access to a phone, or whenever then he has access to the internet, his level of poverty decrease. So the studies are, we can debate them, and it's of course complex to analyze, but I profoundly believe that connection through the internet and through smartphone especially will be a key tool for the future.
You know, one last question before we really involve the audience in a tete-a-tete with you. And do you do a digital detox? Have you been away from your phone, your internet, and the smart devices that you carry with you?
I do detox on many aspects, on food, on wine, but also on digital. There is, first of all, I travel. So the interesting thing when you travel, first of all, you're like stuck for like 10 hours in a plane without internet, so it's nice.
That's a forced digital detox.
Yes, but in a way, I do that a bit every week, so it helps. And the second thing is when you're abroad, it's interesting because you don't live in the same time that your friends and your family and your people. So, for example, when I get up, this morning I get up, I don't know, it was 7:38 a.m. I mean, nothing was happening on my Twitter line, and nobody was writing me. So I have a detox of internet like for 4 or 5 hours before the people in France are awake. But unfortunately, I've had some emails from people like you because you are in India, and so I had to answer that immediately.
So we'll end this conversation. I've enjoyed talking to Mr. Martel.
And there is a drink of maybe some...
No cognac, as you say,
Cognac.
Cognac. Martel. But that's a Martel with 2 L's. This is a single L in the name. So please give him a big round of applause. And I hope you keep coming back to our economy. And I hope you enjoyed